Before we begin, please be advised that this show may contain some adult themes that may not be appropriate for all listeners. Use your discretion. Now, on to our show. Welcome to the Sip and Saga Society, where we cover histories, mysteries, and just any story worth telling. My name is Karina, and I am one of your hosts. And joining us today, we have our crew, our friends. Yay! Randy, Christina, and Greg. And
Hey.
Hey.
hi, everyone. I'm really pumped. Our Little Sips topic of the day is boats. It's boats, everyone. We have paired it with our book club book of the month, The World in a Grain by Vince Beiser. It was recommended by Randy, who is really in love with sand now.
Absolutely obsessed. We got a Discord channel, everyone. And so if you want to talk about all things sand, please go there. It would make my day.
When we read it, I will talk about sand for sure. Yes. And later on this month, we will also discuss pirates. Greg and Randy have a little bit of a deep dive for us, and I'm excited about that. But for now, we have the question of the day. What are you sipping, Randy and Christina? And is it Dr. Pepper or his relatives?
I do have a
Um,
Dr. Pepper, but I also have something else.
right here.
Okay, Christina, what's your other one?
So we went to Daiso while I was in Fayetteville, and I got this sparkling oolong, and it's like lychee flavored.
Okay. I like
Awesome.
that name, Moshi.
Yeah.
Am I saying it right?
hmm And yeah, I'm just one of those. I love all my Asian beverages.
Those are really good too. I like them.
Yeah.
Brandy, what's your other one? Ice cold water?
Brita water. You know it. In my Owala. I'm 100% on that basic band.
I like that you keep it regular. Like there is a system here.
hmm
Okay, Greg,
So
what
mine's
about you?
actually weird. We had a party for well, one of my friends had a birthday party this weekend, and so we made mixed drinks and went to Costco to get like a big bottle of liquor, like as you do. And so I saw this like pre-made, it was like the Kirkland brand old fashioned, like in a bottle. So it's like mixed, pre-mixed, like with the whiskey and bitters and everything. So I'm trying that. I was like, I have to just see how awful this is or how good it is.
Well, well, I love the mindset you're going in with. Um, what's it smell like?
It smells like an old fashioned, like
Okay.
whiskey plus like the you can get the hint from like the Angostura bitters or whatever. It's like maybe a little too sweet to me, but it's not bad.
Hmm, question. I mean, you never know with the canned beverage or
Yeah, or with the Kirkland
pre-mixed.
brand
Yeah,
stuff, you know.
it could be good.
It could be, yeah.
It could also be
I don't
horrible.
know why I'm shaking my head. I don't even drink. Like in general, like even not pregnant, I'm sitting here like, yeah, we get it. I
Hmm.
don't drink. I don't drink.
I do drink. I actually have wine I was gonna have for our video episode. I was like, I'm gonna mix it up for the video episode so people can see that I'm not one note Randy. But being sick really just confirmed my place. You don't even drink like a margarita, Christina?
I do sometimes. I'm just not like I'm a cheap date. So like I don't know if it's because I don't know if y'all have heard, but it's like the Asian gene,
hmm
but I can't handle, like I can't hold my alcohol. Like you could give me one drink and I will babysit that the whole time we hang out. And I will be good. Like, and I don't mind, like, I can get like buzzed. Any further than that, I'm throwing up. Like,
Oh,
it's,
Oh wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
That's a an enzyme thing. I'm trying to think. I read a whole
Hmm.
article about this. When I find it, I'll send it to you because it's an actual like it's genetics. Like it's in your genetics.
But yeah, like I've even like went out like to dinner with my husband and like we both got margaritas and I'm like drank maybe a third of it and I like look at him like, can you finish this for me? Because I can't finish it. And he's always like, you're trying to take advantage of me later. I was like, maybe. It works in my favor, I
No.
guess. But yeah, I can't like so Karina knows my other friend Gina, and this is I'm going off a little off track here, but Gina once made me a mixed drink at a get together at her house. If this is the cup, we'll just say that this is the cup, minus that part. She goes, I made you a drink. And I was like, oh, what is it? And she goes, it has Malibu and like pineapple juice and like orange juice. And I was like, oh, cool. I drink it. Oh my gosh, you guys. I was like, Gina, what did you do to this? It was this much alcohol and this
Oh,
much
Christina.
juice. And
It's just like all
That's a
Malibu.
friend. That's a
yeah.
friend for. That's a,
And I was like, girl, I don't know who. And then I threw up on her sister's carpet, and I felt so bad, like on her
mm.
floor, like, and it was, I felt so bad. It was like drunk me, and then drunk Gina trying to take care of drunk me. She's like yelling at everyone. I'm over here apologizing to Nikki while throwing up. I'm like, I'm so sorry. She's like, it's on the floor, it's not on the bed. It's okay, we can clean it. And Gina's like, everybody, shut up. And I'm like, no, you are so dramatic. What are you talking about? She's like, Christina's dying. I was like, I'm not dying. I just can't drink all this you gave me. But but yeah, I will try things. I will drink occasionally. I'm just not I guess I'm more of like a what do they call it? Like um casual, very casual drinker.
Mhm.
So the more you know.
Karina, what are you drinking?
A canned White Russian because it's the last one of the four-pack I bought 100 years ago. I was not going to buy anything new. I'm trying not to drink alcohol anyways. It's not going well, so I was like, well, might as well just finish the carton. That's a healthy mentality. Anyway,
Is that one good though? Like you like it?
I really like it.
Hmm.
But it's espresso, it's a White Russian, so it's cut water vodka and coffee cream liqueur. I like it a lot. It's really good. Would drink again. Every episode, I start out with the fact that we cover histories, mysteries, and just stories worth telling, and I don't think we have ever really covered just a mystery. So I decided to fix that during the boat episode because that feels like the perfect time. I don't trust the ocean. It is a mystery. And every time I think of sand and boats, it's like the ocean. It's terrifying to me. So I wanted to tell you guys about two different boat disappearances that happened in two different times of science history, the world history. I don't know. So, there was an explorer named Henry Hudson, and he was working for the East Asia, or he was working on a route to East Asia for the Dutch East India Company in 1609. So he's trying to pull a Columbus and find a way to get over. And he sails all the way to North America through the Chesapeake Bay and up what is now known as the Hudson River. I wonder why they
Mhm.
named it the Hudson River. But unfortunately for Henry, he had not made it to Asia and he was just kind of stuck in the Hudson River. And then he was like, okay, I guess I'll go back. So then in 1610, he was hired again to do the same thing. They had a lot of faith in him, and there he went on his way. And he sailed through the Hudson Strait and made it into what is known today as the Hudson Bay. And then he was like, this is it. JK, he's stuck. It was a dead end. There's really nowhere else to go. But by now, it was November of 1610, and the ship was trapped by ice. So they camped it out until the winter was over. By the following summer, the men of the ship demanded that Henry take them home. They were like, we're done. Obviously, you don't know where you're going. We want to go home before we are stuck in this frozen tundra again. Henry Hudson said no because he had not found the packet, like the route to the other side yet, and I'm sure he was worried that they would not hire him a third time. How many times are they going to hire you if you keep messing up and not finding the route? So there he went, telling them you have to stay here in this terrible place. So they mutinied on June 22nd, 1611, and they forced Henry Hudson and his son and anyone loyal to Hudson onto a small boat. And then they took the big ship and abandoned the captain. Although literally anything could have happened to Henry Hudson and company because they just abandoned him on a tiny ship in the middle of the ocean. Some stories do remain about what could have happened to them. There is an Inuit elder that told the manager of the Hudson Bay Company in 1938 that a long time ago there was a long bearded man and a young boy that had come ashore on a small boat, but that the man died, and then the elders of the village took that little boy and tied him to the house so that he would not escape. But I mean that's just like a story that was told, but that doesn't mean like this was him. It was just a story that the elder knew. So there's really no concrete evidence on what exactly happened to Henry Hudson and his son. The survivors who returned to England were charged with murder and faced death by hanging. So they claimed that they actually did not kill him, that they just put him on a boat and sent him away, and he was just banished. They didn't actually murder anybody. But Peter C. Mankell, the director of USC Huntington Early Modern Studies Institute and author of the book Fatal Journey, The Final Expedition of Henry Hudson, points out that the evidence on the ship contradicts this story because there was blood everywhere and some of Hudson's things were missing, and they found like a secret note where they talked about how Henry Hudson and the guy who was in charge of the mutiny hated each other.
Oh,
And they just never found out anything about Henry Hudson ever, and he just was lost. But also, what do you think happened? Like, you went out to the middle of nowhere. They just left you.
Yeah,
I,
I'd be like the guy that was like, "Yo, take us back because like we're not going." I'd be so pissed. I'd be so pissed because like you made us kept going and I died anyway.
yeah,
That's
it's
like
a real,
northern Canada too. It's really cold up there.
yeah,
Like a wintering in on like when where the Hudson Bay is does not
yeah.
sound like a lot of fun.
yeah. And he was like, let's stay here, keep them here. I get it. I'm not against what they did. I have a second story, but this one is even weirder. It's about
Okay,
it.
give it to me.
It's about the Sarah Joe. Have you guys heard of this one?
This Air Joe's the
Think
boat?
so.
Yes.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
So this story is about a ship that is a 17-foot motorboat that Robert Malekini bought in the 70s, specifically the 1970s, because this is a history show and it could literally be any 70s at all. The Sarah Joe left the waters of Maui with five young, healthy men on board. Their names were Ralph Malakaini, who was 27, Scott Mormon, 27, Benjamin Kalama, who was 38, Patrick Woosner, who was 26, and Peter Hatchett, who was 31. So they were like relatively younger-ish men. Like they know what they're doing. And they were raised on the island. They know their way around water. So Robert was the man who owned the boat. Ralph was his brother. And Ralph borrows the boat from his brother and decides to skip work and take his friends with him to go fishing. The family remembers the day and describes it as the perfect morning. They made their way out onto the water, and like I said, they all had pretty strong experience in swimming, surfing, diving, paddling. Like one of the wives said, they weren't much fishermen, but they knew their way around the water. And that water was perfect until about 1 p.m. when the wind increased, and by the evening the ocean had become deadly. Ulu Helkali, Benjamin Kalama's wife, called the police and notified the Coast Guard when her husband still hadn't made it home. They went searching on larger boats and reported seeing 40-foot waves and claimed that their boat was at one point completely vertical. So just like sticking up out of the water. According to Robert, that was one of the roughest days he'd ever seen. That was one of the roughest seas that he had ever witnessed in his life. And after 5 days, the Coast Guard called off the search. The community organized their own search on land as well as in the water after the Coast Guard canceled the official search. For weeks, they searched, and years went by with no signs of the Sarah Joe. I want to show you guys a picture of the boat because it is not a big boat. It is
Well,
literally a motorboat.
I'm also thinking, how are they gonna find this boat? Like if the water really was that choppy, uh, a good break, something hard against it, that boat would have been smashed to pieces. Like, what are they looking for exactly? I guess is my question.
I mean, the ocean's a big place too. So,
Yes,
I
the
feel
other
like,
major
like
point.
you'd probably have to look at like a really big area too.
It's so
There's
uncooperative.
people whose whole job is to figure out using the currents to figure out where things float directionally. It's
I
kind
did
of
not know
crazy,
that.
actually.
That sounds hard.
I
Maybe not,
I
but
found that out in a true crime documentary. They were consulting on a
They
case.
like brought someone in, they were like, we need to know which direction it could have
Yes,
gone in the
and so
water.
they were like, okay, we're mapping the water currents. This is how the water flows. This I think they were looking for like a murder weapon or a body that had been dumped. It was just one of the most fascinating things. Anyway, sorry, Karina. Did you find
No,
that
you're
picture?
fine. Yeah, I did, but it won't clip in. I'll have to send it to you guys later. And you're gonna be like, that's a little boat. It's just not a boat I would fill with five large men and be like, put it in the ocean. It literally is just like a motorboat that you would take out in the river. Anywho, so
like a
yeah,
fishing boat,
yeah,
kind of
like one of the
like
little
one of
ones with
those
like a little
little.
motor on it.
And just like
Mm-hmm.
open, like nothing
Hmm.
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
like
Yeah,
some seats maybe.
it's not like a little yacht with like a little house inside. It's just like an open boat with a motor.
Okay. I was imagining like like a sailboat even would make more
Nope.
sense.
Nope. You would think, but no. I mean, also, but like if you are knowledgeable of the water and you don't think you're gonna go out for that long or that far, I could see it being like, oh, just for a little day boat ride. I don't know. I don't trust the water, so would not be me.
I was like, you can't with a motorboat like that, you can't go very far offshore though.
You shouldn't. But also, if the wind takes you, what can you do?
See,
Life
that's
of Pi
crazy.
situation.
Because I
Freaks me
always see
out.
those people like that go kayak fishing in the ocean or like in like really big bodies of water, and I'm like, y'all are nuts. Like, I can't, I can't. There was like a guy and he's like freaking out because there was I think it was a shark or something that was like following him. And he's like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, dude, you're the one that chose to do that. I mean,
You went into their house.
like you, yeah, you were in the environment. That's crazy. I almost want you to send it to the group chat because now I want to see what the boat looked like.
I will show you in a second. I have another half of the story. We're not done.
Oh
There's
yes, yes.
more.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's fascinating. In 1988, a guy named John Naughton made a discovery in the Marshall Islands. He found a rough-looking boat with a Hawaiian registry on the hull. He immediately thought of the Sarah Joe. John Naughton was
Immediately?
immediately because he was a National Marine Fisheries Service researcher who had actually met Robert Malaikini, the brother, on the days following the disappearance of the Sarah Joe. And he had been asked by the brother to help on the search. So he knew that there was this missing boat. And here, 2,200 miles away, he finally found the boat. Yes, Randy.
I'm sorry, you just said he was so worried about the missing boat, but I imagine the people were much more worried about the missing five men.
The boat with the men included Randy. I mean, the boat has them together. It's not just like the
He said
brother
the
was
guys
like
are gone.
the,
They're gone.
He's like, but look, the boat! The boat!
Okay, but you get the boat, you get the guys. There is some direction. They went this
Sorry, just
way.
the phrasing of that tickled me. Okay, keep going.
I would just assume they hung out together. Anywho, yes, it later was confirmed to be the Sarah Joe. It was the boat. Nearby, they found a grave covered in stones and a cross. The bones buried in the grave were later confirmed to be those of Scott Mormon, one of the men on the boat. They had hoped to find more bodies and get more answers, but they found nothing. That was it. Which I think even that was a lot to find. Robert Malaikini visited the site where they found the boat, and he said it was a journey too far and too difficult to survive. So when he flew over, he was like, yeah, nobody's going to make this. He did eventually receive his boat back in the early 90s, and it still sits in Robert's driveway to this day. Randy is shaking her head at me. But I would be
The
concerned. I
boat.
was wondering, this is the boat. You can kind of see it. It's just like a boat.
Oh wow.
Do you see what I mean? It's like barely a little, like it's just barely holding these men in there.
I was
Do you
gonna
think
say it
he
looks
takes it
really
out
thin.
still?
They said it's just in the driveway.
It's just there. Like you want to hold on to it, but
I think they said it was like a reminder that their relatives would always be with them.
okay.
That makes me feel bad for laughing.
Yes. Well, and love, yes, also. But the article that I found was like a local Maui paper that interviewed the family. So it was really nice to be able to see them like remembering their relatives. But also, yeah, they got lost in the ocean and never to be seen again. But the thing with these mystery boats, because I was looking into haunted boat stories, and the thing I always think is like, what did you think happened? If I'm out in the ocean, there's not a whole lot of possibilities of what's going on out here.
That's also kind of terrifying, like when you're out there. Like I don't know if y'all have been on a cruise before or anything, but like
I'm
when
about to
you're out
be
there in
in
the middle of the
November.
you did?
In
But
November,
He's
it's
like
about
this
to.
upcoming November.
oh no, no, I'm not. I don't think it's scary. It's just like it's a weird feeling when you're like you don't see land anywhere,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
know? But I also have this goal to like one day I want to cross the Atlantic on a boat, like either take like a repositioning cruise or I found out you can actually hitch a ride on like cargo ships and like they rent out passage because they don't need as many people working on them anymore. So it's a weird way to travel across the Atlantic, but you could take like a cargo ship from
Now, Greg, why would you do the cargo way? We're literally doing an episode on pirates this month.
I mean like the cruise would be better. I mean I guess you could take a pirate ship, but
I would be worried about the pirates coming if I was on a cargo ship. I would be like
oh,
not
I
leaving the
guess I didn't even think
room.
about that. I figured, like, I don't know, crossing the Atlantic seems pretty tame. Like, you don't hear about ships getting hijacked in the Atlantic today. Other parts of the world,
Well, things are always bound to change.
I don't know.
Didn't we just
Randy, do
take
you
it?
know
What,
something we
where,
don't?
didn't that happen in Venezuela? Wasn't that the Atlantic?
Oh, that's true. You might just be on a boat and the United States just comes and
Right?
kidnaps you.
Like I was like, we just did it. We were the pirates.
Speaking of pirates, Greg's going to talk about flags.
So yeah, I was gonna talk about flags, but then I was like, there's a couple of just interesting facts about pirate ships that I want to do too. But flags are part of that because I think it's a good preview for when we do an episode on pirates. So like, when you think of like Pirates of the Caribbean, you think of like pirate captains and their ships. Like there's the Black Pearl, right, in Pirates of the
Hmm.
Caribbean. Like Blackbeard's ship was the Queen Anne's Revenge, but like pirates didn't really care what ship they were on. Like they would just like abandon one for a better ship as long as like it was faster or had more weapons. Like that was pretty much like the thing. And so like it's funny because you read about a pirate and they may have like four or five different ships, not just one, because they were just like, oh, this one's better, and they take it. You know. So that's like the first fact that's interesting. The second one is that sometimes the ships that they either mutinied and became pirate ships or that they captured that they thought were better were slave ships. And so they often stole these from the companies that were running the slave trade and in some cases, like what they did with the enslaved people who are on the ships varies. Like sometimes they would let them all go free. Sometimes they would just sell them somewhere, like in a port. And sometimes they would like give people the choice to leave or join the ships. And so, especially in the later part of the Golden Age, a lot of the crews, like sometimes up to like 70, 80% are black pirates, which is really cool, I think.
I like
Um,
that fact. Yep.
I feel like you
yeah.
don't really
Well, and
hear
also just like
about
thinking like being on
people
a
of
ship
color.
that was like you were enslaved on and then it's liberated, like it's you're freed and then you get to go terrorize the people that oppressed you, you know?
Oh, actually, why is that not like a mainstream book series? I would read the hell out of that.
That would be cool actually, like a story of like
Greg,
guys who
when you're
get freed
done
and
with
become
the
pirates.
very important work you're doing, maybe that could be the
Just write
fiction,
the
the
screenplay
fiction
like
series you write.
um so the other thing I was going to share was like with the flags, right? So we often think pirate ships, we think flags and black flags, skull and crossbones, right? Um pirate like pirates do use flags like that, but they kind of vary. So sometimes they like the black flag, even like, and it might have symbols on it, would mean that like when they raised that flag, it meant give us your shit, basically. Like let us take your cargo, like give up your valuables, and we'll let you live. And a lot of times, like captains are like, we'll just give up and like pay them off and be like, oh yeah, I resisted, um, whenever they get back and say they were robbed by pirates. If they raised a red flag, that meant they were going to kill everyone on board. That was like no quarter. And those sometimes had symbols on them too. Um, and so we normally think like skull and crossbones, but a lot of times they had hourglasses, pierced hearts, like symbols that show that like time is running out and death is coming. Like sometimes it's like a man holding hands with death. So the skull and crossbones is cool, but they did some other really cool things with flags. Um, and the last fact about the flags is, the pirate flag is often called the Jolly Roger, and so there's some debate in scholars, like in scholarship, about whether or not it's this is kind of like a penis joke because Roger used to be like slang for an erect penis, and then so that created the verb rogering, which is just kind of like a step above saying the F word, in terms of here or saying fucking, right? So there's this whole question of whether or not that was also just kind of like a pirates just being crass and like saying, kind of like giving people the middle finger that, calling saying it was basically a dick joke.
That is hilarious. I thought it was gonna be like much more serious. Like not
No, no,
like
no. I tried
not
to keep it
serious, but you
lighthearted.
know. Yeah, yeah.
I feel like we should do more flags. Like we should imagine if everyone had a flag, like this is how this household is doing to get today.
It really made me think of
Like you
those
raise it.
emotional support plushies that people will
Yes.
like turn inside and outside.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, that's how I feel today. No
Yes,
quarter.
basically.
You come on this hill, you die.
You saw the flag. That's a good one, Greg. I feel like I learned so much.
Well, good. I tried to I tried to come up with some fun facts and make it less of a story and more just like some random things.
I love a good fun fact.
Yeah.
Christina, you're next.
So mine, like my story or like my facts, I guess, it's actually um I'm Laotian, and so I kind of wanted to do like boat history in Laos because like Laos is considered like a third world country. And so um, I thought it'd be kind of cool to see like what they had or what their history was with it. And so a lot of, their, as far as like, the Mekong River is like the biggest river that flows through. And basically they have like different kinds of boats in different parts of like cities. They also have like a boat racing festival, which I thought was really cool. And so, like if you ever, people ever visit Laos or if you're ever looking, they do have these boats, and they're called like slow boats. And I guess it's a staple of like northern Laos. And they are very narrow wooden vessels, and they have like shallow drafts, and they serve as like a just like transport. So it's like if you ever go visit Laos, like it's something that could like take you across the river or whatever. Um, and it's like, I don't know, it's like funny because it's like a popular tourist journey, and then they often have like repurposed van seats in them. And so I don't know, that seems kind of uncomfortable, but and then they have these like bomb boats, and they call them the back, which like in the Vietnam War, they used these really big like fuel tanks, and they cut them out and repurposed them into boats. And so I guess like whenever people see them, it almost kind of like trips them out because it's like this like shiny silver missile looking boat in the water. Um, and they do have like a boat racing festival, which is called Bun Suang, which is like Bun is like festival or like party, and then Suang is literally like the word for like paddling, and then Hua is boat. And so, and it's like one of those where it's like they have so many people on like the left and the right, and they're like boogieing down the river. But it's like, yeah, they're getting. I sent you pictures, Karina, but um, yeah, it's really crazy because like for me, um, and I don't know if y'all have ever looked into the Mekong River, but there's like a lot of, I don't know if you'd call it like folklore and stuff like that, but like surrounding it, they always talk about like, like serpents or like really big serpents or like really big fish or like people, I guess, tying to the mystery, Karina, like various like, I don't want to say urban legend creatures, but kind of like that surround the Mekong River and stuff like that. And so I thought those were kind of cool. But in a more, I guess, like down to earth, I mean, people use them for tours, they use them for luxury. I'm sure they use them for like fishing and everything. But yeah, I thought those were kind of cool. Um, in my notes, they say that there was some like under historical shipwrecks, like they still do hide remnants of colonial history, such as the French gunboat. I don't know how to say that. It's Lronier, but it sunk in 1910, which is rumored to be carrying treasures. But we'll never know. That's also a mystery. We'll never know unless someone tries to go and find it. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. I know a little, like, I know a good amount about Laos just because, like, my parents are from there. But yeah, I thought it'd be cool because I know that they have the Mekong River, and I wanted to see if they had any boat history. So that's my little tidbit for you guys.
I like the fact that they just repurpose everything they can find.
Girl, they're poor. They got to. They got
I
to.
know.
I
Yeah, I'm
mean,
just trying to imagine what it looks like with them like paddling, like booking it down the river in these boats.
and like some of them, I think the ones that they like paddled down are like, I don't want to say nicer, you know what I mean? But like, it's like those really long boats. Let me see if I can, I don't know if y'all can see that very well,
I can see us.
but it's like a bunch of people, like just,
Oh, long, long.
Oh yeah.
hmm. But Greg, the boat that, so this is the boat that's was repurposed from like the Vietnam War out of like the little
Oh,
fuel tanks.
interesting.
And I mean, and I was telling like my mom, like I was like, I don't know how these don't get hot, like being in the sun, because Laos is pretty close to
Toasty.
the equator. Yeah, yeah, because I mean, and then this one is the one, the tourist one, where they have the van seats, which actually looks kind of nice, but
It's cozy.
it's cozy with the van seats. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's crazy because like even my mom was saying like the boat festival, like she was like, it's like so serious. Like they ball. Like they're going. Um, I don't want to say nuts, but like it is it's for um so it's usually held in the end of October during like the end of like Buddhist Lent. And so they do it as like honoring like water spirits, and they like decorate the boats with like food and there's music. Um but yeah, it's really crazy. Like
Does Laos have beach? Are they on the water?
so I think it's considered
I'm currently looking this
it's
up
considered
because
landlocked if that, but it's like very close to the
well
water.
that
But it's
I was asking because when you showed the picture of the boat, it instantly reminded me of the Aura farming kid. And that's Thailand. So then I was like, oh, how close are Laos
like
and
yeah, they're
Thailand?
neighbors. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they're right there. But then I was shocked that such a strong boat culture doesn't look to have any beach. That's why I asked.
Yeah, yeah. And it's crazy because they're like literally right, like they're fairly close to the water, but it's technically landlocked. But it's like crazy because even with like, I don't know, like Laos is so big because like even where my dad was from versus where my mom was from, um, like my dad technically, I guess you could say like grew up in the city. And so he had like more luxuries than like my mom did. Um, and so like my mom, which like as she would always say is like she grew up Unai Bon Nok, which like Unai means like in, and then Bon Nok is like in the countryside. And like she was like we literally played like in the river in the lakes for fun, but she would like tell me like but there would be like so many drowning deaths because like they don't really know how to swim like that. So it's kind of like a you kind of do it at your own risk. But like I mean, it's those villages that you kind of like, I don't want to say you expect it to be, but it's like they don't have shoes. You know what I mean? Like their doors are literally like curtains or sheets. Um, I told my mom, I was like, that's wild to me because, like, especially in Laos, it's, I mean, pretty jungle-esque. And so, like, very jungle, rainforesty kind of environment. So, I mean, you got snakes coming in your house, you got, and so it's crazy. But yeah, I thought it was really cool to kind of see like boat culture in Laos. So
Yay.
Okay,
Brandy.
it's me, right?
Yep.
So you were absolutely right, Karina, when you started out saying I was gonna bookend you. I see with your first story why you said that because mine, my story tonight, my topic for boat is I read this book. Well, I'm gonna tell myself I have a chapter left. I did not finish the very last chapter. That's fine. I did the online research for it, so don't worry. But it's frozen in time, and it's all about the fate of the Franklin expedition. Which for those of you who don't know, in the 1800s, Britain was like super focused on getting a Northwest Passage. So very much like what Karina was talking about, they wanted to find a way to Asia. They were still focused on getting to Asia, and they wanted to find a shortened route through the Canada area up in the northern part of Canada in the Arctic. And they went through the Hudson Bay. But this is a story about an expedition that went out in 1845. It was led by Sir Franklin, who had done an Arctic expedition previously. He had done it in like the 18 teens, sometime I want to say like 1814, sometime around there. And it was a really rough expedition for him. They had decided to go overland. So there's multiple ways. Well, there's two ways. No, to do these expeditions. So they could go by boat through the passageways, the canals. That's what he would end up doing later. But there were also expeditions that were done overland, that they were trying to mark the territory. They were trying to see if there were resources. They were mapping the entire Arctic continent and trying to establish control of the North Pole as well. So like they were they were doing a lot. And in this time, like the 18 teens, this was kind of a lull for Britain. The Royal Navy wasn't being used for a lot of things. So one of the ways that they decided that they were going to become um, famous within the ranks, or like, distinguish themselves amongst other officers, was to go on these Arctic explorations. So he had signed up and he did an overland expedition. So it was over 2,000 miles that they were pulling sleds and packs. And it was really, really rough on Sir Franklin. He came back and he became known as the man who ate his boots, because that's what they had to do to survive. It got so bad that they were eating caribou excrement in addition to boiling boots. It was a rough time for them. So there was a lot of modern day advancement in Britain and in Europe, that by 1845, when he was put in charge, he was 60 years old at this time when he was put in charge of this expedition, and he was going to go. They felt like they could not fail, right? Like the sentiment was really, actually, in the book, when it was describing it kind of reminded me of kind of how they talked about the Titanic. Like, nothing bad could happen. Sir Franklin was like this big adventurer. He had gone on and done some other things. He had really made a name for himself. um they weren't excited that he was 60 years old, but his crew absolutely loved him. Like, they had nothing but good things to say about him. They said that he was a comrade. He really was focused on helping them to make sure that the mission went well. So he was in a good place for it. They had invented um, tinning of foods. So that was like the big turning point that made them think, okay, the Arctic exploration is going to happen because we can send 3 years worth of tinned meats and vegetables and soups, and that will allow our sailors to eat while they're doing their exploration. On top of this, one of the things that um, I'm sure we're going to talk about more when we get to the pirate episode, they were really focused on preventing scurvy from happening. So scurvy, for people who don't know, I highly recommend looking it up because I'm not going to do an in-depth explanation. But basically, you're missing some important vitamins that are mostly given through citric fruits. So like oranges, limes. There's other ways to get it, but that's like the best way for you to get your vitamin C now. That'll kind of stop scurvy. And we can treat scurvy if caught nowadays. It actually, fun fact for those of you who don't know, scurvy is coming back. Thanks to GLP-1s, there are now cases of scurvy because people are not getting a proper diet. So this might actually be important information for you to know. Um,
Have you, do you know what the symptoms of it are? Have you looked that up?
So it's weakness. There's physical symptoms. So there'll be things like you'll have gum recession, you'll have a tight, drawn mouth, you might have sunken eyes. Then you're gonna have physical symptoms. So you're gonna be weak, you're going to be feverish, you're going to have sharp pains, there's going to be hair loss, there's just a basic deterioration of yourself is what you're looking at when you get scurvy. It's a really uncomfortable way to die. And actually, I'm going to talk about this later, but it's very akin to like lead poisoning. Uh, is is a good comparison to scurvy.
I was just gonna say the grossest thing I like when I read about it in like sources from that time, people talk about teeth falling out a
Hmm.
lot, which is like nightmare fuel because of the gum stuff.
The
Like
gum
apparently
recessions.
like
Hmm.
people's like teeth would regularly
Yeah,
fall out, and like if it was really bad, they could lose all of them. So that's like my
that's
nightmare
one of the
fuel.
places. Long in the teeth. I hate that phrase because it's literally from gum recession. That phrase comes from for a multitude of reasons, but it's the book said that like would have passages of letters and it would describe people as long tooth and Greg's absolutely right. They're like a couple of months away from losing their teeth at that point. So, so all of this advancement has happened. So they're kind of like in this place in 1845 where they think, okay, we can do this. There's been a lot of good charting done so far. We've got a good map of the area. And Sir Franklin thinks that he's going with a pretty good idea of how he's actually going to find the Northwest Passage and how he's going to get through. Things don't go as planned, obviously. So, some of the interesting things that I found out, this is one of my fun facts, I'm going to sprinkle it in, but in the climate conditions, so uh, one of the things about the Franklin expedition is that it is really a cult sensation in that people were invested from the dregs of society all the way up to the heights, the absolute tip tops in multiple countries. We're talking there was interest from Norway, there was interest from outside of Britain. The United States did research. There was some Dutch interference. Like there were a lot of people that were involved in kind of the making of the myth and the story of the Franklin expedition. And because of this, um, there has been a lot of scientific focus on it as well. So, a lot of what this book focused on was the more recent discoveries, the bone analyzations, but specifically for the time period that they were in, they have done ice core testing. So, ice core testing is when scientists go out and they drill holes into the ice, into the permafrost, however deep they can go, and that those layers usually mark years, time past, specifically when it's that cold up there that it never thaws. Like the ice does not thaw. That was one of the biggest problems for the whole expedition was that the ice didn't thaw. And so they're able to find ice cores, centuries and centuries old, thousands and thousands of years old. So they've done ice core testing, and it has shown that the climate that the Franklin expedition went out in was the worst it had been in 700 years. It was the coldest winters in 700 years when the Franklin expedition hit the Arctic. So there was really not a great shot for these men that went out there at all. Nothing good in the cards for them, unfortunately. So they went out and they're sailing. They, like Karina talked about, they go through the Hudson Bay, they go up through the channels, and because of the previous exploration, they thought that they knew the way that they needed to go. So there's an island, and I can't remember the name of this island off the top of my head. It's named after a king, King Charles, King something island, and they're going around it, and because of the previous exploration, Sir Franklin thought that he needed to go west on the west side of this island in order to actually find the Northwest Passage. Um, Unfortunately, because of the conditions that he was in, that was the worst possible decision that he could have made. That was the final blow, basically, of what ended up getting them stuck in the Arctic for 3 long years. Once they hit the west side of the island, which is infamous for not thawing, for icing over and getting absolutely stuck, which the east side of the island thaws every summer because of the channel flows underneath the way that the water goes through. The east side of the island gets enough warm water that it thaws, and he would have found the Northwest Passage if he would have gone to the east side of that island. But because he was on the west, him and 129 of his men were stuck in the ice. And, there would be no hope for them. The book clearly details that even today, ships cannot get through without icebreakers in that part of the channel. So unless the boat is equipped with like very sharp spikes to drive into the ice, there's no way that the ships would have gotten out. And again, because the climate was as bad as it was then, the ice was 80 inches thick or more in some areas. So these men, 129 men with little pickaxes, aren't going to be doing anything to 80 inches of ice. So they were pretty fucked, if we're just going to be honest. So they had 3 years worth of supplies. And the first year they did okay, to be honest. They did have an unusual number of deaths. They had a high number of soldier deaths, which they weren't sure what to attribute that to. Um, and there aren't many accounts left from the voyages. Like they could never find any ledgers or documents from the crew. So there's not any accounting of how the men died. They just know what the numbers were based off of letters that were sent and held within the ship themselves. Um, so the first year kind of passed. People were still feeling okay. They were traveling, and a lot of that first year, they were just getting to that west part of the island. So they hadn't even really been stuck yet. It wouldn't be until the second year that they had been stuck in the ice through that first winter. They made it to the summer. The ice did not thaw. Then they knew that things were getting bad. And the story the story that I'm going to tell you guys actually is pretty dark. It's pretty gruesome. Many people are happy for Sir Franklin because he dies sometime in that second year. He ends up getting sick and he dies in 1947, around that time, before the dark turn of events that happened in 1948. So, you know, I'm just gonna, for the essence of time, I'm gonna kind of skip to he's passed. The men are not doing well. They're seeing signs of scurvy. They're having a lot of sickness. There's a lot of paranoia. They're upset and worried that they're not going to be able to get out of the ice. They're starting to send expeditions of men to see which direction to go in. How are they going to leave? If they're going to trek over land, which direction should they be headed? And then they're doing a lot of shuffling when it comes to allegiances. So there's two men that come kind of to the forefront of things in the works. And we know this because of how the bodies were found, not so much documentation. So there's a lot inferred from the bones and the way that things are done, um, like found that way, archaeologically, less so with documentation, like I'm saying. But there's like these two groups that kind of come up Um, and they finally make a decision that the food stores are getting low. They're having a lot of sickness on board. There's a lot of division amongst the men. Things are not looking good. So they're like, okay, we're going to embark and we're going to go and we're going to take a sled and we're going to carry our things and we're going to trek the 700 miles to this camp in Greenland. And that's, I mean, that's where they speculate that they were going. And that's where they were headed. They end up dying along the way. And a lot of the accounts of what happened to the men are actually oral accounts taken from the Inuit tribes in the area who had interacted with them. They had done trading and they had found um, artifacts and exhibits from the sailors on board the ships. And so they knew that the Inuits actually had interactions with them. And the story that they told was really, really bleak. These men had gone out and toiled. They had run out of food. All of the a lot of the cans were found and recovered and able to be excavated. But the stories that they tell and the stories that the bones tell shows evidence of the men devolving into cannibalism after their stores ran out. And it's it's actually in the book. I did not care for how graphically it went into it, but it was not a pretty time. Like there were evidence of holes being drilled into skulls. I assumed to like dr pull the brains out. There were accounts of intestines being eaten from the Inuit people, and it just was a really dark time. All of the expedition, every last man on that expedition died. Not a single man left the Arctic. Neither did any of the animals that they brought. The expedition also brought one dog, one cat, and one monkey uh, along with them. And they were there to be a part of the research, I believe, but they did not make it either. I do not know if they were eaten. I really hope not. Um, yeah, I know Karina. Karina's making a face. Yeah, if you can't see it, because I don't know what you can see right now. So this is all happening in the Arctic. This is the two ships, the Terror and the Erebus. And they have not made the Northwest Passage. They haven't found the North Pole. Basically, they have gone crazy and eaten each other. And a lot of what the scientific discovery afterward was going to show is that the crew was very, very sick with lead poisoning. And that was one of the reasons why I said Greg, a great example is because it's hard to tell the way that they're doing the research on the bones and things like that. It's really, really hard for them to know what the main cause of the sickness was because the symptoms are so closely the symptoms on the body for those two are so closely tied that they're like, well, it could have been scurvy. It could have been the lead-lined tins that all of the food was packaged in. So, so what's happening back in Britain? So in Britain, 3 years have passed by. So 1948, without a peep, Sir Franklin's wife is getting real nervous. And can I just say, I actually stan Sir Franklin's wife. I kind of love this woman. She is a real independent thinker for the time. She had spent most of her life traveling. She didn't get married until she was in her 30s and had seen more of the world than like most other women at her time. And when she was like, somebody better go find my husband, she went to everybody. She went to Britain, she went to the United States, she went to Canada. She was like, somebody's gonna listen to me, somebody's gonna find my husband. And because of that, more than 30 expeditions would go out in the 2 decades after 1848. Two decades, she continued to push people to go and find the Franklin expedition, even using her own fortune to fund two of those ships to go find him. Like, she was like, you're gonna find my man, like, go get him. So I was really kind of proud of her, to be honest. But that really, ironically, that really kicked off the age of exploration into the Arctic, and it would not stop from that point on. So, it would actually be an American who would find the end of the Northwest Passage. But the Franklin expedition, because where the men died, they finally passed through it, even though they finally passed through it when they were walking and ended up dying. They credit the Franklin expedition with finding the Northwest Passage with their lives, and that's what they say. So fast forward now. So Sir Franklin's wife has done all of this good work. They've been looking. The explorers have gone there, also dying, trying to save them. So, just a general loss of life. In Britain, people at home not really happy with what's going on. There are stories coming back from those expeditions, the things like the Inuit saying that they were cannibals, the stuff's coming in. People aren't having it. People are like, oh no, it's the Inuits who are cannibals. Like, I cannot believe that they would say such a thing. The Royal Navy is the best that our country has to offer. They would never fall into such things. And when I'm talking to you guys about these people who are talking, let me give you some names. I'm talking about Tennyson, who is writing about this. I'm talking about Charles Dickens, who is writing about this. I'm talking about Darwin, who is right. Like, there are people who are making statements who are names, and they're like throwing opinions out there about this expedition and what they think has happened. So it continues to build interest. And later in the 1900s, there would be more and more exploration, and more oral histories are taken. And once the bones are refound, so more bones are found, it is then confirmed that the expedition had in fact devolved into cannibalism. Um, you know, there were stories that came out that said that the expedition had come into contact with some of the Inuit villages and had made trades for meat, that they had given them some food to sustain themselves. But at the time, people were very upset because they thought that the Inuits should have done more. And specifically the Americans, when they were the ones who had taken this oral history and done this documentation, the man who was writing it was really quite disgusted and made it very clear in his writing how he felt about the Inuits not giving them the food that they had, even though he then acknowledges that they are also living on sustenance only, and that they had documented cases of starvation also within their own communities and villages. So this was not a friendly place to live. If anything, the death sentence was Britain sending 130 men into the Arctic. Like it. So the 1980s roll around, and there's even more exploration that can be accomplished. So a professor enlists some really great aides and goes out and decides that they're going to start looking for all the men. They're going to retrace the steps. They're going to find the bones. Throughout the other expeditions, anytime a set of bones had been found, they had been buried. So their goal was to like go and retrieve these burial bones and to like do some research and restore them. There was no good way of marking them, so a majority of those bones, and I mean like all but one set, remain buried where they were because the only way to mark the grave was with stones, and that just ended up blending in with all of the other scenery of the area. So the drive was to figure out what had finally been the point that the expedition had really felt fallen apart. And so they had decided to exhume the bodies of the men who were buried in the first year of the expedition. So there were three graves that they had always known about. That were the very first men that were buried. And those bodies, which had to be pulled out and poured out of the permafrost, still contain soft tissue. Karina's going to put pictures up, but they were practically immaculately preserved. Like they really still look animated. And part of the reason why I said this story so closely aligned with Karina's is that there was a lot of mythology at the time. People thought when the pictures came out that if there was a little more technology that they could give an elixir to the bodies and these men would reanimate. That is how well preserved they were. When they were actually excavating the bodies out of the ice, they were thawing them out, and a storm came and gathered, and all of the researchers were getting really, really nervous that the lead researcher ended up canceling the dig because they were all getting the heebie-jeebies. Basically, the other researchers were like, whoa, we're like, because these men were coming out of sheets of ice, and every sheet that was cleared away from their face made it more and more clear that they were so well preserved. They looked like they were awake in the ice. Now, couple that with a storm and a complete lack of sound or anything else in the tundra, I'm sure you can understand the kind of ways that your mind and imagination can run away with you. But this story continued to develop. So they found the bodies in the 1980s. They did a lot more of that research. They found out about the lead poisoning. They were able to confirm that the lead poisoning was so unbelievably outrageous. It had been long term, protracted from all of the food that they had been eating in the tins. It was like 600 parts per million, which for you guys who don't know, 14 is like zero, basically no exposure but what's in your environment. So they were at 600. So they were doing real damage to their bodies with those lead line tins. And then in the 2016, 2018 era, Canada actually was able to find the two boats. So they have actually been recovered. And there's a lot of, well, recovered is probably a strong word, but they're doing what they can to go in and find and do more research. So there is still research that is coming out that is talking about the Franklin expedition and what happened to all of the men. Now, the most interesting thing, since this is about the boats, is the Terror. So one of the boats was called the Terror, and its first job was as a battleship for the British in the Battle of Baltimore, which, for those of you who don't know, that is the battle where the Star Spangled Banner was written. A really big battle in the war that I cannot think of which one it is. Greg, which war is that?
It's the War of 1812.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the Terror before it went to the Arctic had a pretty big job. I was like, wow, kind of wish you would have blown up, but that's fine.
They were like, it didn't blow up, send it to the ice.
The Arctic, yeah.
Hmm.
Anyway,
So
so that was my very long story, but there, that was my boat story.
Randy, that was wild.
that
Mm-hmm.
was really wild.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking when you were talking about like the ships being lost, I was like, okay, like did we ever find them? And so I saw on YouTube there's a video that the Canadian Park Service did of like it's like a
Mm-hmm.
scuba dive through the wreck of
Mm-hmm.
the ship, which is really cool if you like shipwrecks.
It's it's insane. You know what? I'm just gonna show you one of these pictures because I was showing Karina to scar her. Um, for the faces that were found. So like this was one of the faces that this was through the ice. So
Oh
like this is
wow.
layers of ice. So this
You can
is
see
them
like gums
melting.
and stuff.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they're melting the ice to expose the face. But this was basically how they were found. So this was the body once they were able to get the ice removed. I mean, the eyes are still open. I can't
That's crazy.
imagine in the
That's
middle of the
terrifying.
night just throwing
Mm-mm.
warm water and this face is just looking up at me like for hours. No,
I would also be
terrifying.
like, I'm getting too creeped out to be here. I gotta go.
Yeah.
Randy, so I know
Here,
that
this
you
is what
said
Greg
that
was
they
talking about.
were, oh, that is cool.
Mm.
I know that you
Yeah.
said they were on one side, like the frozen side, and then like the east side was like the not. Do
Hmm.
you know how close or far they were from that? I mean, I know the ocean, like I know it's big, or I know it's big, but like were they like
Ooh,
closer than they
yes.
thought? You know what I mean? Or like were they, or
I
was it
want to
like,
say they were, I want to say it was something like 700 miles. It was not,
wow, yeah.
it was, but it was also, I don't know. That might be too long because now I'm thinking that was the number I said earlier for his walking expedition. So now that might not be it. I'll have to look into that for you.
Yeah,
But they,
it's
I
just
mean,
like
they
it's
ended
crazy
up.
to be so close but so far away at the same time. Like
Mhm.
for all that
Well,
to
and then
happen,
it's
for all
icy
of it to
and
go down.
snowy. How well can you see that
Hmm.
far
Not
ahead?
well.
You're
Not well
right.
at all. Not well at all. There are constant accounts of people being lost in the mist. What really boggles me is like these men that when they left, they were really well equipped. So the Terror and the Cerberus were said to have been like the most well equipped ships at the time to do what they were set out to do. Again, this is why the Titanic throwback. And the men that were weakened with scurvy and lead were found pulling a sled estimated to be weighing about 1,400 pounds. And they were like, why did they bring this stuff with them? They had brought like books and like things to cook with and like things that they had like packed in the storage as if they were going on vacation. They packed the sled and then they hauled it. It just is mind-boggling to me that that is really why I think it's more the lead because to be that disillusioned or that I don't know what the right word is to be like that like shrouded that you're pulling a sled. Why did no one stand up and say, "I'm not pulling this sled. We're just walking for hundreds of miles." What do you mean? Like
Why did you
food
bring the
only.
books?
Food only. Like
I think
what
the
was
lead
going on?
is not like I feel like they could be in perfect conditions, but eating lead-filled food is not gonna help you in any scenario.
Well, and at the time, they all believed that the tin foods were the things that were going to keep them from getting scurvy. So, so they were just really screwing themselves both ways.
It gave him extra strength scurvy.
Yeah. And
Mm.
they tried to there are accounts of them trying to give it to the Inuits, and the Inuits were like, "No way, Jose. We may be starving. We are not taking that tinned food."
Relatable. That was a tale, Randy.
And about the boat. The boat? What was the boat doing there?
There's a lot of boats. And honestly, all I learned is I don't know about boats. I don't know about boats in the ocean. Sorry, Christina. It'll
Can
be
I read
fine.
you what this book said about cannibalism? Can I say that?
Yes,
Also, for
please.
everyone who's interested, there is a really lovely song in here that I almost wanted to sing to you guys, except I'm so sick it would have been awful. Okay, cannibalism. I need to find my cannibalism note. Okay. So cannibalism follows a pattern. Once the decision is made, the initial sections removed from the body are the meatier areas like the buttocks, thighs, lower legs, and arms. Recognizably human parts such as hands and feet are not eaten first. As time passes and hunger continues to tear at the survivors, the options of where the flesh comes from are reduced, and bone marrow, organs, arteries, and skin are consumed next. Removal of muscle tissue is usually done with a knife or other sharp object, and this can leave butchering marks on the bone. Removal of bone marrow requires the bone to be smashed open. The brain is either pulled through the base of the skull or eaten after the face is cut off.
I'm glad there's an order to these things, Randy.
That's really the part that I think bothered me the most about it is that you're gonna tell me there's rules for cannibalism.
That's a
There's just no way
lot.
this goes. Yeah.
That's what I contended with at gymnastics today.
You're like, I have to think about this really hard.
I was like, I hope people aren't looking at me too closely. My face would have said everything.
Yeah, I definitely would have looked at your face and be like, Randy's definitely reading about cannibalism.
Or that woman is scared.
Yeah.
What is in that book that she's so upset about?
I don't know. You told us the quick notes version of it,
I did.
and that was traumatic enough, honestly.
Hmm.
Mhm. Well, now that we've all been sufficiently traumatized, thank you guys for joining us on our Little Sips episode of the month, and as well, our listener for always being there and listening to us and our stories. If you have enjoyed today's episode and would like to support our historical endeavors, please visit our website at sipandsaga.online, where we have merch, a book club, access to our, what is that thing you talked about? Discord.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we have a book club meeting every month, where this month we will be talking about sand. Yay. I'm so excited, but for now we gotta go. We have naps to take. So, goodbye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.